All right, everybody. We're going to do our next project with balance using Photoshop. The first two assignments that we're going to do is symmetry and asymmetry. So let's start off with a new file. When you open up your Photoshop, you should see this kind of a menu, and you're going to click New File. We are going to use the default Photoshop file size, which is 7 inches by 5 inches at 300 ppi. So click that and say create. And one of the first things we're going to do is go ahead and let's just save this file. Let's make it, let's make it permanent. So when we save this file, I'm going to go ahead and call it, use your last name and then Symmetry, Asymmetry. And, find where you're going to save it. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on my desktop. Save. And there we go. It's always nice to do that right off the bat so that you can be saving as you're working in case something happens. So let's set up our canvas here, or our file. And one of the first things we're going to do is click Edit, move on down to Preference, and let's start off with Units and Rulers. You're going to see that a menu comes up, and you will be able to select more options here on the side. But let's start off with Units and Rulers. And up here with Rulers, we're going to select inches. All right. Then with our guides and grid and slices, we're going to come here where it says grid and make sure that we have the number 1, the number 4 for subdivisions, number 4, and that we select inches. And that should be good. So we're going to click OK. Now it's going to, we're going to go ahead and activate some of our view settings. So we're going to go ahead and say show rulers. So here we have our rulers, which is 0 to 7 inches and 0 to 5 inches. Next, we can do show grid. And then here's our grid. Now, for guides, we're going to set up a guide or guides for our symmetry, especially the symmetry project. So what you're going to do is you're going to move your mouse up here to the ruler. And by the way, the ruler, if you right-click it, you can again change your, your rulers from pixels to inches and whatnot. But anyways, we're going to come up here and we're going to click. We're going to left click and pull down. And this will be our guide right here. Now, you're going to notice that it's snapping to the grid. And that's something that we want. So let's come up here and make sure that it is enabled. If yours is not snapping, that may be because it's not snapping to grid. See, if I deselect that, that's when I can kind of put it in the middle. It may still snap, but I want to make sure that it only snaps on there. So we're going to come into Snap To and make sure that it has Snap to Guides and Snap to Grids. So there we go. Now we're going to pull one from the left and make it in the middle. Where is the middle? Well, half of 7 inches is 3.5, and half of 5 inches is 2.5. So we have a grid and we have some guides. We're pretty much ready to go. And one of the things that you want to be aware of is how to see the grid and not see the grid. Because sometimes when you're designing, you kind of want to take it off view. Now, for a PC to turn on and off the grid, I would hit Control, comma, or for the guides, Control, semicolon. For Mac, it may be different. So just go ahead and look here and you can find out what the hotkeys are. So again, I don't want to see the grid at the moment, so I'm going to hit Control, comma, and there it is. And if I want to see it, there we go. Same thing with the grid, the guides. I can see it, not see it. So let's go ahead and put it all back. Now we're going to work with the shape tool to create some shapes in here and start composing our composition. I want you to look here at the layers menu. Let me go ahead and move this up a little bit. This is the background. We're not going to work on the background. Nothing should go on the background. All right, so if I click the shape tool, which is right here, you might have it as a square, you might have it as a line or a circle. So it's right down here. It's probably like right above the hand tool. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the rectangle. And I don't have a new layer selected. I'm still working with the background, but I just want to show you that if I have, up here on the top, I click the shape tool, I look up here, and I see that it has pixels. If I go ahead and do something like this, I get a solid square, and notice that it's on my background. So those are two things that I don't want. I don't want anything on my background, and I don't want it to be a pixels. I could click edit and and click undo, which is right here. I can also undo any moves by clicking history, and going back up to right around there. That's where it's gone. And of course, you can also look at the hotkey of Control Z to undo anything. So I could press another layer and start working there, but it's not necessary. So let's go ahead and trash that. What I want to do with all my shapes is that I want to be sure that I am selecting shape, not path, not pixel, but shape. Now notice how everything here has changed, right? We don't want to do a fill, so click no. And we do want to do a stroke, which is the outline. Just use black. My pixels, I do want them to be small, the outline, so I'm going to choose 10. Now notice I still have crosshairs. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. I have crosshairs. If I click out here, I just created a square out here in nowhere land, or it's asking me to do that, so I'm going to hit cancel. What I'm going to do is come in here, click, and move. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And I have my piece right in here. All right, so one thing you want to notice is that it created a new layer. So here's another layer and another layer. I can change and do an oval. And if you want to see what happens if I change the stroke, yeah, I can increase it, and you'll see what happens. I can make it really thin, almost nothing, really thick. For me, I think a 10 pixel stroke is fine. That's going to be good enough for us. You can make it a little smaller if you'd like. And we have our triangle tool. Here's our triangle tool. I can make it isosceles, I can make it obtuse, I can try and make it equilateral. If I want to make it equilateral, I should press, let me just do a hit and obtuse here. If I want to make it equilateral, all I have to do is press the shift key as I move, and I move my mouse while pressing the shift key, and there's my perfect equilateral triangle. If I want to make a perfect square, again, if I want to change my shape, guys, just keep it clicked, and then you can see. So if I want to make a perfect square rather than a rectangle, I press the shift key, and when I move, there it is. I've got a square. All right. The polygon is nice. The polygon has some interesting shapes. Your basic polygon, it might come up like a star right here. Okay. Or if I press the shift key, I get a perfect star. But suppose that I don't want it to be 6-sided. So I could change that. I can make it maybe 12-sided. And now it is definitely a more in-depth star right there. All right. And right now, you know, it's kind of like a star, but maybe I don't, let me see. The number of sides, symmetry, radius, blah, blah, blah. Okay, okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. So you can change your star or polygon. It depends on how you have it. After I've done a few shapes, you're going to notice, right, that we've created a few layers here. We have quite a few layers here. And we can select our shape based on the layer. If I say ellipse 1, it would be right here. And I don't have to even touch it. I can just move it around. Well, let me see. Let me click this auto select off. So if I click the ellipse, I can move it around without having to select it. And that could be convenient. But up here with the move tool, which is this one selected, I can also do auto select. So if I click on this rectangle, in other words, I have to click right on the black line with my cursor. Notice this was selected. And I still can't just go like this. No, I have to actually select it, keep my mouse clicked, and then I can move it around. So it's kind of like putting my finger on these pieces, and I can move things around like this, right? And we need some overlap. That would make it much more interesting to do some overlapping. All right. Now, another thing that we want to select now that we have a few shapes in here is the Show Transformation tool. Oh, by the way, talking about shapes, before I leave shapes, I don't want to forget, we have the Custom Shape tool. Now, the Custom Shape tool, right up here, you can choose things like a wild animal. Suppose you want to do, you know, I don't know, the elephant. So if I come in here, I can use the elephant, maybe squashed, maybe more like that. If I don't want to do a squashed or squishy elephant, I press the Shift key and it will stay within the correct proportions. So yeah, you can play around with some of these things and you know, use them as shapes with our project. Let's go ahead and put him right around there. And let's move this obtuse triangle a little bit over. Could be right around here or right around there. Okay, we'll start working on that. So I have my shapes here. One of the things I want to do for, instead of moving things around, what if I want to rotate some things? So we're going to click the Show Transformation tool. And now wherever I click, if I select the elephant, I can twist the elephant. Okay? And to get out of here from, you know, to deselect the transformation of this elephant, just hit enter. And now I can select the star and move the star around, and I can go ahead and change the star. I can increase the star, and I'm going to hit enter. Maybe, you know, I want to select the obtuse triangle. I think I would like to maybe do something like that. Increase it a little bit. And I can't really move it around necessarily. I have to hit enter, and then I can move it around, right? This triangle, I'm going to move the triangle a little bit lower, have some overlap here. I would like to make this, you know, a little bit smaller right there. Hit enter, and then, you know, perhaps I do want to add maybe something like, let's choose a flower in here. You know, be careful, choose something, don't choose something that's too complex. Let's choose the flower I was using for some of the examples in here. All right, so I'm going to click Shift and click my move tool, and now I can maybe move this flower around here. Maybe there, maybe twist it a little bit. I'm trying to use, there we go, maybe like that. Hit enter. Back to the move tool, click outside. So I've got some shapes here. Granted, I could use maybe, let's see. I would like this a little bit diagonal. Maybe a little bit longer. So again, you know, as you're working with this, you're going to see that you will always be tweaking, maybe a little tweaking there. Have things come off the page. You know, that's always nice. Me, I tend to not like things to be too formal, you know. I like to have diagonals, and I like to have some tension on some things. So, you know, I'm going to move him down a little bit because we do want to have some overlap. Okay, so let's just leave it like that for the sake of our project. And I want to open up a previous project with the examples here. And let's go ahead and come down here with Symmetry that I have here in this folder. And just to show you, right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the grid, Control comma, and remove the guidelines, Control semicolon. And here's Symmetry. And I basically have one side that has been done, and I think I can maybe show that. Here's one side that has been done. And what we've done is taken all of these images and duplicated them and inverted them onto the other side, which then creates a sense of symmetry. Because it's a mirror. It's a mirror-like object. Later, we're going to come in with the paint bucket and start coloring, you know, the figure black and the background white, or you can do the inverse, the background black and the figure white, to create like an interesting interlocking figure-ground relationship. And that's what we have here. Now, I wanted to keep using the same shapes as I did with the Symmetry, just to do the asymmetry. So you see that asymmetry does not have everything mirroring in the middle. As you can see, the guide, this is the guide in the mirror, and it does not mirror left and right, and it does not mirror top and bottom. You could do symmetry top and bottom or symmetry left and right. Now this is asymmetrical. It's much more natural. At the same time that it's more natural and comes easy to many of us, what is the challenge here is to create a sense of eye movement. You know, things coming off the page, making sure the viewer does not fly off the page with their attention, but comes in and around. Let me show you how this is when we do the figure-ground relationship. Here I chose to make the figures black and the background white, and wherever they overlap, I invert the black and white color scheme. So when we look at symmetry, it is more technical. It may not be more difficult, but it can be more technical, more precise. Let's remove the guide so that you can see. But you get something so, you know, much more interesting with the images. It kind of transforms and becomes something else. The possibilities are endless. So let's head back to our project. So here we have the beginnings of our symmetrical project here. So now what are we going to do? We are going to put down some registering marks. So that way when we duplicate this and flip it, we can do alignment. So what I want you to do when you're done arranging your shapes on one side is I want you to put some registering marks. And by the way, let me remove the grid so that you can see. It is okay for you guys to have your shapes crossing over into the right. This will create, we are still going to create symmetry, and you're just going to have an interesting overlap. So don't be afraid of the center line. So don't be afraid of the center line, and don't be afraid of edges, going off the edges. In fact, I probably should move this guy a little bit more over, you know, just to break up that edge. And let me go ahead and make the elephant a little bit larger. You see, you're always going to be tweaking. It's always happening, right? Okay. All right. So here's my piece. Let's just leave it like that for the sake of simplicity and time. And we're going to put in our registering marks. So I want you to come down here in your shape tool, click the line tool, and before you do anything else, it's very important that we change the stroke color. Choose any color that you have here as an option. I'll choose this color right here, this peach color. Or, you know, if you really want to be picking, I'm like, no, I really want it to be red, then go ahead and select it to be red by selecting the color palette here. Once that's done, you know, we're going to hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line there, and I'm going to draw a line there, and I'm going to hit my move tool again, click out here, and I'm going to remove the guides so that you can see what's going on. There they are. These are my registering marks right here, these two lines. Now you're going to see what's going to happen when we flip, and how this is going to be helpful, and how we can remove this later. All right, let's go look now at our shapes. We're going to group this. You know, just for the sake of simplicity, I can select each layer and click the shift key and select. Maintaining my shift key pressed, I can select and scroll down and select, or let's go ahead and deselect everything. I can also, with the move tool, just come somewhere up here, left click and drag and select all of my shapes, and then release. When I release, if you look here on the shape, on the layer area, you're going to see that they're all selected. The next thing I'm going to do is click the group folder right down here. Create a new group. Now everything is in here. If I turn it off, there it is. If I turn it on, there it is. All right. So let's duplicate everything in here in one easy stroke. I'm going to put my mouse, if it's not selected, click it, right click, and duplicate group. And there you go. We've duplicated it. I can name this, you know, for the sake of, you know, making it easy. You can name it, but let's just leave it that way. All right. I'm going to turn off one of the groups. Okay. If I turn off the other one, it's gone. But I'm going to just turn off one of the groups. And I am going to come up here and say, come up here under Edit, Transform. And let's just say you chose flip vertically. And you're like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. And maybe you clicked outside and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? How do I go back? Remember, click the history. You see where it says flip vertically? Go back to layer visibility. You can put that away again. And you're going to click that layer. It's now selected. Come back up here. Edit, Transform, and now we're going to select Flip Horizontally. And there you go. Now, we're almost there, but not quite. If I put the other group to show, you can see that we got to move everything over. Even though right here, this is a nice little symmetry, you know, action that's happening here, but this is not really our project. So I'm going to go ahead and show our grid, which is, you know, Control semicolon, Or again, you can come up here and click View, Show, Guides. You can also show the grid, but we don't really need to see the grid. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect the grid, but I do want to see my guides, which are these blue lines. I'm going to also turn off the other one so I'm not confused and I don't select anything by accident, like this. And in case you clicked out here, just simply re-click it. And we're going to move it to the right. One of the easiest way to do it is with the cursor keys. You just start pressing your cursor key. Or you can keep it pressed down. And you might notice that this may take forever. So what you can do to speed that up is hold down the Shift key and click to the right. And you're going to see that it moves much faster. And just be patient. It's going to be moving. You could try and move it with your mouse, but I find that this is a bit more accurate, you know. And we're almost there. And we're almost there. But now do you see why these two registering marks are important? This one lets me know that I am good horizontally. And this one lets me know that I got to still move it over more. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to slow it down until I'm kind of right there. I think that that's perfect right there. All right, I'm going to click outside. And now I'm going to click my group 1. There's my symmetrical piece. I'm going to also now select the registering marks to remove them. So let me go ahead and remove the guides or hide the guides. I've got my piece, my move cursor here, and I'm going to go ahead and, you see what's happening? I can't select it because I have this box and I want to select this. So no worries. All I need to do is come in here and look under each group the line. So group 1, I'm going to select, and you can see how it's selected, and I can say trash, yes, and I can select line number 2. See, this is the polygon, but I can select line number 2 and select trash and remove it. And now I need to take these two, which are inside of the next group up here. So I can select 2 at the same time. So if I have this one selected, Shift and select the next layer, and then I can click trash and it deletes it. So I'm good to go. Let me reduce or close down the 2 groups here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and merge all of these layers, because right now if we click the paint bucket, which it's usually hidden here with the gradient tool, all you need to do is press down with your left key on the mouse and maintain it pressed and drag over, and you can select here. So I'm going to select the paint bucket, but you're going to notice, right, that I can't really paint in here. Everything says no. It's because these layers need to be merged and they're not quite pixeled. They're like a little bit of a vector, if you will. So I need to merge these groups. But what I like to do, for just in case I make a mistake, are 2 things. 1, come up here, save, because right now I don't want to make any mistakes. So let me just save a copy. Then number 2, I'm going to select both groups. To select both groups, just click one, then click Shift, click the other. Or, you could just hit the Move tool, drag all of it. Okay, and you're going to notice that both groups are selected here. The next thing I'm going to do is right-click on either one of these 2, right-click and say Duplicate Layers, and hit OK. So now I've duplicated this. I'm going to click anywhere here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn these 2 off, and just in case something happens, I have a backup. It's always good to do, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and then Shift click, and I'm going to now right-click and select Merge Layers. we're going to merge this. We have to flatten it. And I'm going to click out here, and there you go. See? Here it is. It's right here. It's flat now. So if I take my paint bucket and I come in here, oh, I have to select it. Sorry, guys. Let's select it. Now it's selected. I come in here. Now I can do it. It's good that I didn't select it because that may happen to you guys, right? You might be over here. Nothing is selected. You click the paint bucket and you're like, what's going on? Well, what's going on is that we need to select it. Now I can do this. But what's happening? It's not black. I need it to be black. So let's come over here, back up, close the history, and down over in here, the default is black over white. It's always going to be there. So the best thing you can do, let's suppose I was like this, you can see that. So foreground, background, just click that and it goes black and white. If it was reversed, you click black over white and it goes back to the default. This is what we want, the default. So let me click our layer. Now at this point you might say, okay, let's just start coloring. Yippee-ki-yay. But again, I recommend that before you start coloring, save this piece. Come over here, click that layer, then right click it and hit duplicate layer. Okay. Now I can close this eye and I have a backup right here. Let's go ahead and save since we've done a few things here. Save. And now we can come in here. Now, in the other project, I did the figures black and the background white. In this instance, let's go ahead the other way. So I'm going to go ahead and start painting all of the background black. But if you ask me, I think doing it with the figure, it's going to be nicer. So I've done the background black. The next thing I need to do is wherever it overlaps, you know, when two figures overlap each other, like the elephant and the square are two figures, then I have to reverse or invert the black and white. So we're going to do that right here. Oops, let me go back. See, I can't get that little piece. So what am I going to do? I'm going to press the zoom, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in there. And then I'm going to get my paint bucket again. I'm going to come in there. Oops. Control Z for going backwards. And I got it. So now I want to zoom out. And I don't need to press this. One of the things that I can do is instead of using the lens is pressing Control minus and Control plus. That's up on the top by the number area of your keyboard. So Control minus goes like this. And Control plus goes like this. And if you want to have it back to the default full page, Control 0. So suppose I'm in here and I'm working, but I know that there's another piece up there. Another thing I can do is press the space bar and maintain it pressed. You see the hand? And then I can use my right click mouse and drag. And then I can come in here and paint that and paint that. And then I can press the space bar and drag down. And then over here, I know that I need to paint this shape and this shape and that shape and this shape. Okay, let me zoom out full page, which is Control 0, so that I can keep working in here and really start figuring out the nitty-gritty of what's going on in here. That's good. All right. We have here and here and there and there. Nope, that's wrong. Okay. Back up. There and there and there. Let me put this away. All right. So here's my project. Did I finish? No, I forgot here. So yeah, take a look at everything, right? And I think, whoops, yeah, I did it. Wow, I still have a few more pieces to do here. Okay, I think we're done. Nope. All right, now I think we are done. So I'm going to click the move tool, and I'm just going to click out anywhere out here to just deselect. Or yeah, it's going to be hard for me. It doesn't matter. All right, so we're going to say File, save the whole PSD file. And now to save, to submit your project, whether it's Symmetry or Asymmetry, I'm going to hit File, Export, Save for Web, and you're going to have this menu. All you need to do is make sure that up here it says JPEG. Yes, you can keep it high. You don't need to touch any of this stuff. It's fine. And then you're going to click Save. And how are you going to save it? You're going to save it as Bofill Symmetry, and it's going to save all up in here in my desktop area. And there you go. And that's all that's to it, guys. So this should be painless and more engaging in design, where you really can start exploring and making things dynamic. Use some different shapes. If you are kind of bored with some of these simple shapes that are in here, then go ahead and do some research and find out how you could import some other shapes in here, right? Because once you have the shapes in there, you can import shapes. But to import shapes, they need to have a CSH extension. So that's something that you can Google or find. There's some free shapes out there. All right, everybody. Well, enjoy and have fun with this project. And let me know if you have any problems or what have you. Ciao.